Hey guys, tonight we slip into a narrow lane where torches hiss and the stones feel damp under your shoes. You hear a low murmur of voices ahead. It sounds like a market at midnight if markets could whisper. A wooden frame waits by the square. Two holes stare back like surprised eyes. You will see where rule and rumor meet. And yes, if this were the real Middle Ages, you probably wouldn't survive this tour. Sorry. Plague, cold, taxmen, take your pick. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Please tell me where you're watching from and what time it is for you. I love seeing the spread of little glowing dots across the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk with a lantern in your hand. It swings and sends little moons across the walls. The leather handle squeaks. Wax drips on your knuckles. The square opens like a stage. It smells like wood smoke and wet hay. A dog yawns in a doorway. Far off, a bell taps twice, then sleeps again. Laughter slides in from one side. You turn. There they are. The stocks sit low, almost shy, 2 planks, iron hinges, bored holes for ankles. The wood appears smooth due to years of use. Palms, rain, and tears wax it. You hear a snort and another laugh. A pair of boys tosses pebbles at a rat. The rat wins. A man in rough wool leans on the frame. He nudges the wood with his boot. You picture your legs inside. Ankles trapped, back curved, pride shrinking with the cold. No grand speech, no curtain, just waiting. The crowd does the rest. It is simple. It is slow. It is very public. Here is a firm fact. By the mid-1300s, English law required every village to maintain stocks. That way, local courts can punish minor crimes. Drunkenness, brawling, selling short measure at the alehouse. A quick penance in full view. The rule spreads across towns and across years. You see the proof under your hands now. Iron rings, stained grain, a groove where a key rests. A soft cluck comes from a pen near the inn. A goose waddles over. It nibbles at a stray straw by your boot. You imagine toes in the cold morning. You imagine beaks curious about wiggling skin. Free pedicure. 0 stars. Would not book again. You smile and then stop. The wood feels warm, even in the night. It holds stories. You lean close and read a notch. Someone carved a simple cross. Someone else cut a tiny fish. The lines are thin. They were made in a hurry, or with shaking hands. You trace them and think of how breath must have fogged in the winter air, how jokes and prayers shared the same thin space. Historians still argue whether crowds at the stocks were mostly kind or mostly cruel. Some say most people stood, stared, and then moved on. Others say rotten eggs flew as if it were a sport. Your lantern hums. You hear soft steps to your left. A woman with a basket glides by. She peers at the stocks. Her mouth tightens. Then she goes on. Perhaps she remembers a cousin who was kept here for a day. Maybe she has bread to sell. The night does not explain. A guard wanders past with a halberd. He nods at you. His eyes are tired. He checks the pin and the locks. Work is work. In some towns, the stocks sit by the tavern door. Pulls a crowd. Keeps watch easily. It also means the prisoner can smell ale and stew all day. That is a quirky twist of placement. It hurts the pride more than the legs. You crouch and hold the lantern low. The holes are not circles. They are ovals. Thick socks can still fit, but not boots. The ankles must be bare or near bare. Cold bites faster that way. You imagine a rain cloud. You imagine a sparrow on the frame. It pecks at a crumb left by a child. Your mind paints the slow hours. You start to count them without trying. A second wooden frame stands nearby. It is smaller. It has 3 holes, but they sit higher. You think of a violin. In some German towns, it is called a shame fiddle. It locks hands and neck at once. It makes your body its own sign. You do not try it. You touch the wood and pull back. The grain is rough. Your skin remembers and says no. The boys come back. They toss a berry at the frame. It leaves a purple mark. One boy salutes the empty stocks and whispers, "Behave." He grins and runs. You feel the line of the joke. You also feel its edge. This is a theater for morals. But it is not a play. The stagehands are real. The script is painful. The lesson is public. You stand and scan the square. You picture market day. Stalls. Baskets. A woman is selling apples by the pile. The old myth says she throws a rotten one at a thief. Maybe, maybe not. Historians still debate whether the classic fruit toss is a historical truth or a later artistic creation. Court rolls list fines and times. They rarely list tomatoes. Tomatoes are not even here yet. Your brain files that away and relaxes. You sweep your lantern over the stones. You find a drain. It runs to the alley. Someone planned this. The frame sits so waste and wash can flow. Punishment meets plumbing. You did not expect that. Little things matter in a town. People plan even for shame. A soft cough behind you. An older man with a cap leans close. "You touring?" he asks. You nod. He smiles with one side of his mouth. "Careful at night," he says. The stocks bite back. He means the crowds. He means the jokes. He means the way faces blur into a lump of noise. You thank him. He fades into the dark like smoke. You step around and sit on the base. You look out at the square as a prisoner might. It is lower than you expect. Knees trapped. Hands free. No hiding. Your chin feels heavy. Your eyes trace windows. Candle here. A shadow there. You imagine the hours. Dawn comes. Work starts. People pass. A child stares. A baker nods. A friend pretends not to see. You learn more about people in one day here than in a year. That is the point. You think of the law. Feels old and young at once. Old because wood and iron speak of extended use. Young because each town learns as it goes. A bailiff decides. A reeve follows. A parish priest might stroll by and offer a few kind words or a lesson. That sounds nice. It also sounds like a storm in human form. It depends on the day. It depends on the person. It always does. Your lantern pops. A bit of soot drops on your shoe. You flinch and laugh. That tiny burn is nothing. Yet it feels sharp in this place. The mind tells stories. The body listens more. You run a thumb along the hinge again. You note the pin. You note the warded lock. You wonder who makes the keys. You picture an ironsmith with a careful eye. You picture a spare kept under a tilted stone. You smile. It would be the second worst Easter egg hunt. You stand, brush off your cloak, and take one last look. You see a miniature doodle of a bird near the edge. The beak is round. The eye is big. It looks hopeful. It is a wish. You step back. Your lantern light fades off the face of the stalks. The square grows a bit larger again. You set a gentle plan in your head. You will walk from this low frame to the bigger stage up by the market cross. You will listen to how voices change when the platform is high. You will learn which crimes stand and which sit. You will seek the gap between shame and harm and see how people tried to fill it. You crack a sleepy grin. No selfies in the stocks tonight. You like your neck just where it is. A breeze slips past and lifts the smoke. Somewhere, a lute thrums 3 soft notes. You turn your steps toward the market lane. The stones feel older under your feet. A cart squeals and rattles, then slows. The smell of apples grows sweet and sharp. A cat darts between your legs and vanishes under a bench. You follow the cat with your eyes and find a raised platform behind it. A beam stretches across like a gate. Voices drift from there, voices with a different kind of laugh. You breathe in and head that way, lantern steady, ready to see how a higher frame makes the crowd stand on tiptoe. The platform lifts you into market air. Stalls lean in like curious faces. Spice dust rides the wind. Apples glow in heaps. A wheel of cheese lounges like a sleepy moon. A boy slaps a rug and sends chaff into the torchlight. Your lantern paint flickers across the big frame. This one stands tall. It looks like a door for a giant who refuses to budge. 3 holes wait in the heavy board. 1 for the neck, 2 for the hands. The hinges are thick and patient. The latch has a flat iron tongue. You touch the wood. Feels used, but not soft. You picture the press on the collarbones. You picture wrists fixed as if they are part of the beam. Not a spa day. More of a stand very still and regret plan. The market cross rises to your right. It looks like an old judge. A crier's stool sits near the base. A bell hangs on a peg. You can feel the show side of this place. The stocks hid low by the tavern. This, by contrast, owns the view. It asks for eyes. It gets them. A sack of onions opens nearby. Sharp scent moves in waves. A woman laughs with a trader. Then she glances at the frame and sobers. Business and fear share the same street. The town knows it. That is the point. You step close and study the build. The top board lifts like a jaw. The lower board is steady as a jawbone. The fit is tight but not cruel. You see shallow grooves where skin met oak. You see a lighter stripe where a name once sat on a signboard. The letters are gone, but the memory shape remains. A beadle in a faded blue coat might stand here on market day. He would ring the bell. He would read the charge aloud. False measure. Bad ale. A lie under oath. Then he would lower the board. Locks click. The crowd leans in. A minute becomes long. A fly becomes an epic. The nose decides to itch at once. Of course it does. That is the law of noses. Here is a firm fact. Under the assize of bread and ale, town courts in England used the pillory to punish traders who cheated on the weight or quality of goods in the 13th and 14th centuries. Bakers, fishmongers, and sometimes brewers felt the effects of this wood. Records note fines and hours. The rule was simple. Do not cheat your neighbors. A quirky twist hangs from that. A baker who sold short might be led around with a loaf tied to his neck. A literal bread necklace. Not a fashion trend you want in your feed. Some towns did the same with rotten fish. The smell worked harder than any speech. You look down the line of stalls. Sellers would love the crowd. Trouble draws coins the way a candle attracts moths. A youth with a drum might drift close. He taps 3 beats. Tap, tap, tap. Then he moves on. You can sense how this space transforms a case into a lesson. You also think about how the lesson can turn into a joke. Early social media. Many comments. No mute button. You slide a finger along the edge of the hole. You think of the head inside. You think of a jaw held in one place. Words sound different when they cannot dodge. Some prisoners begged. Some joked. Some sang. The pillow for the voice is the same wood for all. Imagine telling a story while you swallow drool. That is skill. Someone whispers, "Fruit." You look at the apple pile. Smells sweet and sharp. A small bruise shows on one. A child might toss that bruise. It might land with a wet clap. Historians still argue whether people pelted pillory cases with rotten food most days or only at significant events. Some towns even banned stones and complicated things. No one wants a broken skull in a lesson about bread. You nod. You also remember that tomatoes are still a travel dream. No red splats here. Eggs, though. Eggs are always ready to freelance. A guildsman strolls by with a weight set. He checks a scale at the next stall. He eyes the frame as a partner in his math. Trade is based on public trust. That is the heart here. You can find a crook in a room, but you shame a cheat on a stage. A coin paid in private heals a debt. A face fixed in oak heals a rumor. The joke bites longer than the apple. You hear a small phrase near your ear. Perjury, someone says to no one. That word loves this frame too. Courts used the pillory for false oaths. To fit the crime. Your mouth swore. Your mouth now hangs still, a neat circle. People like neat circles. They point. They nod. They buy onions. A guard checks the latch once again. He hooks a small hourglass to a nail on the post. Sand slides. Time is visible here. You like that. Keeps tempers calm. It measures mercy. 1 hour is 1 hour, not 3 and a grudge. When the last grain falls, the board opens. The neck lifts. The world floods back in, the crowd parts like reeds. The person walks off, heavier and lighter at once. You look at the base. A channel runs down the side. It would take a spill away, rain, wash, fruit bits. The town is tidy, even with shame. That counts too. It says, "We will punish you and still keep the place clean." Neat in every sense. The platform creaks. Try the stance beside the board with your chest out. Chin trapped, hands flat. You feel how sound carries. Even a whisper floats out like a leaf. Someone on the edge snaps a rhyme. Kids repeat it. A rhyme is cheap and lasts forever. Worst PR campaign ever. You almost laugh. Then you glance at the holes again and stop. Voices behind you debate fines. A woman says, "Just pay and be done." A man shakes his head. "No," he answers. "Fine is change. This is memory." He taps the frame. He is right. A small fine might cost the trader a day's profit. The stage might cost a season. Breasts fold. Purses close. Trust leaks away. A dove lands on the cross arm and blinks at you. It leans, looks down, and coos. It has seen all this before. Birds are very good at history. They keep notes in the air. You coo back. You are also very good at being odd at midnight. You run a hand along the side post. A faint line shows a notch every finger's width. A carver used this to level the board. Smart. You like small tech. Somewhere another town went further. Some pillories could rotate. A slow turn put every face in the show. You imagine a whole spin under a rain of apple cores. That is a theme park no one wants. A merchant laughs near the spice stall. He eyes the apple crate. "Save the good ones," he says. "Compost the bad. Or throw with love." The line lands and a groan follows. He bows. Comedy is hard. Comedy with ethics is harder. You think about the phrase baker's dozen. People say it comes from fear of this frame. A baker gave an extra loaf to be on the safe side. Maybe, maybe not. Historians still debate whether this custom originated from guild practice or genuine panic. The extra loaf is real enough. The reason keeps wobbling on the scale. Your mind shrugs in a friendly way. Some stories prefer a wink to a period. Priest pauses at the steps. He lifts his hem and sighs. He looks at the board and mutters a prayer. Then he buys a small pie. He pays fairly. He nods at you and leaves. Life goes on around the lesson. That is the real edge of public shame. The world keeps moving. You stand still. That gap does things to a heart. Your lantern breathes and sends a warm bar across the wood. You picture a midday sun in place of your light. Heat on the back of the neck while the crowd mills. The smell of sweat. The itch of straw dust. A bee loops by like a drunk tiny knight. You swat gently and miss. Fair duel. The beetle's stool creaks when you test it. You sit and watch the empty frame. You hear ghosts of jokes. You hear one kind voice too. Not everyone mocked. Some people slathered their lips with water. A cloth to the nose. A word like hold fast. Mercy is cheap when you are not the one inside. It is gold when you are. A final look at the apples. You pick one with a small dent. You think of all the tales baked into that dent. You roll it in your palm. Then you set it back down. Good fruit should not carry someone else's story. It has enough of its own. You climb down and step into the lane that curves behind the stalls. The boards of the platform thrum under your feet, then fade. The square exhales. The night holds steady. Your lantern paints long stripes on the stones. A pool of water ahead shines like a mirror. The air grows cooler as you move. Your steps are slow. You can feel a different kind of test waiting. Heat on one side, cold on the other hand. You draw in a breath and follow the ripple of voices toward a slight arch and a quiet yard. The yard opens like a breath. Stone walls hold in the quiet. A small pool sinks into the ground. It shows a soft moon. A fire pit sits to the side. Coals sleep under ash. A cauldron hangs above them like a black bell. Ropes coil on a peg. An iron bar rests on 2 bricks. You stand still, feeling both heat and chill. Your skin cannot decide which way to shiver. A clerk has chalked 3 short lines on the flagstones. The marks lead from the fire to a bench. Each line is a pace. Each pace is a promise. You read the space with your eyes. You feel the weight that will cross it. The air smells like wet stone, smoke, and old prayers. A priest would work here in daylight. He would open a book. He would bless the water. He would bless the iron. He would speak words that turn tools into tests. People would gather at the arch. They would hold their breath. They would watch the accused breath. Divine judgment needs an audience. It also needs calm hands. You look at the iron bar. It is a good grip size, thick but not bulky. Records describe a pound. Sometimes more. The fire makes it glow. Red at first, then a hint of orange. The priest would lift it with tongs. He would lay it on the bricks. The person would step close, bare feet on cold stone. Then the hand would close on heat. 3 paces, slow and steady. 1, 2, 3. The bar goes down. The wrap goes on. Linen, clean. A seal of wax marks the knot. The hand goes home. After 3 days, the band comes off. If the burn looks clean and calm, the person walks free. Suppose it looks angry, not so much. That was the rule, not a spa plan. Hot stone therapy is not this. Here is a firm fact. Clergy helped run ordeals across much of Europe until the early 1200s. Then, a great council in 1215 told priests to step back. No more blessing water or iron for this. With that change, ordeals faded fast in many places. Towns relied more on oaths, witnesses, and other forms of evidence. You feel how a yard like this would grow quiet. You crouch by the pool. The water looks dark, almost thick. It feels cold when you brush it with 2 fingers. People called this holy water blessed water when it was blessed. The idea is simple. It is too pure to welcome a liar. So, if you float, you are guilty. If you sink, you are clean. A rope loops from a stake to your hand. You imagine it tied around a waist. Strong arms stand by to pull fast. No one wants a life to end in a test for truth. You prefer your bath with a towel and no jury of fish. You smile at the thought and then sober again. You picture the steps of the rite. Fast for a day. Pray. Take an oath in church. Then come to the yard. The priest signs the water. You stand at the edge. Your wrists tie fast, palm to palm. Your belt is tight. A rope hugs your waist. 2 men hold the ends. They nod. You breathe out, your body tips in. For a second, you feel the crisp bite. Then your body floats or sinks. Eyes watch for the first hint of pull. There is help ready at once. The test is only a moment. The judgment is the crowd's lasting memory. A sparrow drops to the edge of the pool. It sips and looks up at you. Birds keep popping up on our tour. They like law, or maybe they like crumbs. You blink back at it. The bird is not bothered by the cold. It leans and drinks again. Brave little judge with feathers. Across the yard sits a stack of long metal blades. Plowshares worn thin with their edges dull. Some places laid 9 of them in a row. They heated them until they glowed. People walked across. Bare. Slow. Sounds wild. It is rare. It shows how stories stretch to fill the dark. Please think of the famous tale of a queen who proved her honesty by striding over glowing iron. Maybe she did. Perhaps the iron was warm, not wild. Historians still argue whether such walks were common at all or mostly a legend. The image burns bright in art. Real feet, less clear. The cauldron makes a small groan as the chain settles. That is for the boiling water ordeal. A judge points to a stone at the bottom. You must reach in and take it out. The depth changes the task. Wrist deep for a small case. Elbow deep for worse. A whole arm for the hardest accusations. The hand is wrapped in a bandage afterward. The seal remains in place until the check is completed. 3 days. The same clock as the hot iron path. It is steady, at least. A sore is a sore, no matter how you met the heat. There were softer tests, too. Weirder ones, even. Here is a quirky tidbit. Some early tales speak of the morsel of judgment. Bread and cheese blessed by a priest. The person chews it after an oath. If he chokes, he is guilty. If it goes down smooth, he is clean. Sounds like a picnic gone tense. It may not have been common. It lingers in law books like a whisper. There was also the cross stance. 2 men stand in the shape of a cross with arms spread wide. They stare at each other, waiting. First to drop, an arm loses. Strong shoulders win the case. Some kings liked it for a time. Then rulers banned it. It seemed too easy to mock a holy sign that way. Also, the best carpenter's son always wins that contest. Joking. Please do not send letters. You run your palm along the chalked paces again. The marks have soft edges. Many feet have touched them. You can see how careful hands could tilt fate. A priest could test the iron with a wet finger. He could watch the pot until the bubble slows. He could look a neighbor in the eye and decide the speed of the count. The ritual feels tight. People still lived inside it. There is always room for choice within the rules. Here is the debate that hums in the books. Historians still argue whether ordeals were rigged to match what the village already felt. If most people thought you were honest, the iron might be warm, not fierce. If you were feared, the water might be very still. They also argue whether cold water made most folks float or sink, and how the bindings changed that salt, fresh, rope, belt. The details matter. They tilt a life. You think of the crowd in the arch neighbors, kin, traders. They watch. They squint for signs. A blink, a wince, a prayer said fast. The priest keeps the drumbeat. He knows the book by heart. The law here is not a machine. It is a group of people trying to sleep at night. A bee finds the warm ash by the fire and sits. Even the smallest creature likes comfort. You step to the bench and sit too. The wood is smooth and cool. Someone carved small dots along one edge. It looks like a game. Maybe people played while they waited for the bandage to come off 3 days later. Waiting is its own test. Your mind skips to the older lanes you walked. The stocks, the pillory, those were about eyes and time. This yard is about faith and heat. Both paths share one thing. They turn a case into a picture that anyone can read. They make a story for the street. A story can help, can also hurt. You know that from your own feed. The pool catches a patch of cloud and goes dark for a breath. The wind rises and then settles again. You hear a clack of wood on wood beyond the wall. A low cheer follows. It sounds like practice in a ring. Sticks, then steel. Your shoulders lift and then fall. You are sleepy, but you are curious. You stand. You smooth your sleeve. You take one last look at the chalk marks, the rope, the iron bar. Your lantern slides a gold line over the water. Then you turn to the narrow gate at the far end. You step through and feel packed earth under your boots. A torch throws a circle on a raked patch of ground. 2 men trade slow cuts and blocks. A sand line marks the edge. A small bench waits for judges. Your breath makes a thin cloud. It drifts away like a ribbon. You find a place by the fence and rest your hands on the rail. Your heart makes a soft, interested drum. It is time to see what happens when truth wears a blade. The ring smells like wet sand and iron. Torches make soft cones of light. A low rail marks the lists. The legal line, step in and the world changes. Your breath sounds bigger. Your heartbeat feels loud. The ground is raked smooth. No rocks, no roots, fair footing. A small bench waits for the judges. A clerk sits at a desk with a board and a neat, nervous quill. He loves rules. This is his Super Bowl. 2 figures circle each other. They move slowly. The blades kiss and slide. Wood shields thud like drums. You rest your arms on the rail and feel splinters. Your lantern warms your hands. Somewhere a dog shakes and sighs. Even the dog wants a verdict. You picture the whole ritual by daylight. A bell rings at dawn. Both sides hear mass first. They confess. They take oaths. Then the officials weigh gear. Same style of weapon. Same kind of shield. No sneaky extras sewn into sleeves. No iron spikes in boots. The clerk stares at your shoes like a hawk. He would have loved those chalk lines back by the ordeal yard. A herald steps out and names the case. The words are sharp and formal. One side charges. The other denies. No fresh tomatoes here either. Still not in Europe yet. You are safe from a salad attack. The crowd leans in. Silence spreads like a blanket. Here is a firm fact. Trial by combat, also called wager of battle, was a real legal path in parts of medieval Europe. It lasted long in some places. In France, a famous duel in 1386 drew a massive crowd near Paris. 2 knights fought after a grave accusation. One fell. The court took the fall as proof. You feel how a field can become a courtroom and a stage at once. The rules are odd and careful. From sunrise to sunset is the usual clock. Water and pauses come on signal, not whim. Step outside the rail and you lose. Cry craven. And you lose. That old word is a key. It means, I yield, and I admit. You taste the dust that word kicks up. It isn't enjoyable, but it beats being carried out. Your eyes catch a small flag on a pole. It shows the town's arms. The cloth riffs in the breeze. You think of honor. It sounds grand in songs. Feels heavier when you stand on sand. This is not a tavern boast. This is a risk with a contract. Not everyone fought for themselves. Some people hired help. That is where champions fit in. Older men, widows, and even nobles sometimes sent a trained fighter to stand in their place. The champion swore he fought in good faith. No lies, no secret deals. If he lost, he could be banned from future fights. Win enough times, and your name sticks to rumors like burrs. A champion's brand mattered, even before logos. The two men in the ring shift their feet. They test range. One faints. The other does not buy it. The torch spits and you jump a little. Cool brave you. Totally calm. No one saw. A quirky little scene peeks from a fight book in your head. It shows a strange, fair fight. A man stands waist deep in a pit with one hand tied. A woman circles above with a cloth sling and a stone. Yes, really. A 1400s fencing master drew it. Rules, weights, and even where to put the pit. Did it happen a lot? Maybe not. It sits on the edge of law and theater. Historians still argue whether those male-female pit duels ever took place outside the page. The image sticks, though. Your brain will not let it go. Mine either. Knights had their own style. Horse, lance, then sword and shield on foot. Commoners often used stout clubs and round shields. It sounds simple. It is not. Every part had a weight limit. Every blow had rules. Hit the head? Allowed in some customs. Grab the helmet? No. Bite? Please do not. We are not in a goose pen. Remember the goose by the stalks? That bird had better manners than some fighters. You hear a voice behind you whisper a prayer. Duels were not always bloody all the way through. Many ended when one fighter slipped and could not rise. Many ended when one side lost nerve. A judge could intervene if the signs were clear. Mercy was part of the book, even here. The crowd liked a clean finish. They also wanted to get home by supper. Another fact sits under this sand. Combat did not stand alone for proof. It was used when other signs were thin. A neighbor's good name, a bad rumor, a trail too faint to follow. Then people turned to a theater of proof. Feels wild now. It was a logical approach then. God sees. God picks. The end is a verdict and a lesson in one. You lean on the rail and watch a shield edge scrape the ground. The sound is like a saw on wet wood. Your fingers curl. You want to shout advice. You do not. This is not your gym class. There is no coach's whistle. There is also no snack bar. The only bar here is the rail you grip. The clerk clears his throat. He reads out a list of penalties. If you lose, your case sinks. You may face a fine, a brand, or worse. If you win, you walk tall. Maybe too tall. Victors sometimes grew loud after. Towns tried to cool that down. A judge might say, "Go in peace." He meant, "Go quietly." You think of the fights that never began. Some quarrels ended at the last minute. A deal in a tent. An apology. A marriage pact. A coin to smooth a temper. A threat of combat could prompt people to avoid talking. Fists make some brains work faster. Not a great plan. Did work. Here is your debate for the pillow. Historians still debate whether the average duel was a fair truth-finding process or mostly a theatrical display that favored the trained and the wealthy. They argue that champions often tilted the scales. They trace how fights usually ended with a yield rather than a draw. The records whisper one thing in one town and another in the next. Sand keeps poor notes. A crow lands on the top rail and cocks its head. Birds again. It looks like a tiny judge in a feathery robe. It blinks and then hops away. You breathe and let your shoulders drop. Your lantern has burned a little tunnel of gold out here. The cold outside that tunnel is real. Keeps your mind awake. You glance at the judge's bench. A small chest sits under it. The lid is iron-bound. You guess at what sleeps inside. Seals, ink, spare cords, and maybe a bag of coins for fees. Law is never free even when it looks like a fight. The clerk loves his lists, but he also loves his ledger. Every oath has a price tag. Your eyes drift to the street beyond the lists. A man counts coins into a leather pouch. The sound is soft but sharp. It rings like tiny bells. You think of a different way to end the trouble. Not with sand, not with heat, with silver, with a scale, with a promise called peace money. The thought is warm, like a cloak on a windy night. You watch one last exchange in the ring. The fighters touch shields and step back. They nod. Practice done. The rail goes quiet again. The sand shows a few dark prints and a thin scratch. Proof that people were here. Evidence that this was real. You step away and feel the ground shift beneath your feet. Sand gives way to stone. Stone gives way to dirt. The town grows softer at the edges. A lute plucks 3 lazy notes. A window shuts. A cat rolls in a doorway like a fuzzy comma. You follow the coin sound down a narrow lane. Your fingers still buzz from the grip on the rail. Your breath slows. Your heart listens for the next kind of room. Less shouting. More counting. You can almost feel the weight of a silver piece in your palm. Cool. Flat. Heavy with meaning. Time to see how a debt can be paid like a bruise. Not by blade. By number. You slip into a low hall where numbers breathe. Firelight slides across a table. A small scale waits in the middle, like a quiet boss. 2 thin pans hang from chains. A moneyer has a knife for cutting coins. A pile of small silver discs sits to the side. Each one shows a cross. Each one is as thin as a dry leaf. You touch one with a fingertip. It is cool. It wakes your skin. Voices hum around you. A family stands on one side. A friend stands on the other side. They speak low. They count slowly. Peace sits on the table between them. Peace looks like silver tonight. You glance at a board near the door. A hand has inked neat lines and short words. Tooth, rib, hand. Values sit across from them. Considerable harm, big pay. Small harm, small pay. It looks like a menu if a menu could sigh. The point is clear. You break, you buy. The town wants calm. The city also wants cash. Here is a firm fact. The oldest English law code, dating back to around 600 under King Ethelbert of Kent, lists payments for wounds. Knock out a front tooth? Pay a set sum. Break a bone? Pay more. Kill a man? Pay his worth, called a man price. To his kin, people call it wergild. It sat in many Germanic laws. It tried to cool hot blood with cold silver. The moneyer slides a penny onto the block and cuts it clean. Half, then a quarter. Change, medieval style. No tiny coppers yet. They cut the big coin to make the small one. Your wallet does a little cardio just watching. The knife makes a crisp sound. A pan dips. The scale nods. Numbers turn into trust. Kin matter here. If you harm a person, you face a family, not just a face. If you cannot pay, your kin helps. If they will not help, your world shrinks. Friends turn away. Doors close. No one wants a feud to circle. The law pushes all of you to settle with coins, not clubs. It does not always work, but it works often enough for towns to sleep. You step closer to the table. A small bag opens. Silver slides like quick rain. The weight pulls down a pan. The other pan rises. The pointer finds the middle. The room exhales. Someone ties a knot in a cord. Someone else breaks a stick in 2. Each half shows the exact notches. Each side keeps one. It is a tally. A simple receipt. Wood and cuts as ink. The stick will be stored in a chest under the bed. The deal will be split into 2. A bearded man rubs his chin. He glances at you. You glance at his beard. You think of a quirky line from old laws. Some codes set a fine for cutting off a man's beard. That was pride, cover, and winter warmth in one. Pull it, pay. Shear it, pay more. Your hand goes to your own chin and stays polite. No surprise fees tonight. Not every price is fair. Not every table is kind. Wergild is not the same for all people. A free farmer is worth one. A higher-born man has another. An enslaved person might be priced as goods or not at all. The sums scream status. They show the world as it was seen, not as you wish it were. Your stomach makes a small knot. You breathe through it and keep looking. The room is honest. It reveals the mix of order and unfairness that coexist in most ages. You hear a bell far off. You think of charters and kings. In the 11th and 12th centuries, rulers exerted greater pressure. Crimes become against the king's peace. Fines start to flow more to the crown and the court, not only to kin. In 1215, a great charter in England stipulated that penalties must be proportionate to the fault and not destroy a person's tools or trade. No ruin for a tiny slip. It is a small guardrail. It matters. You can almost hear the clerk in the duel yard nodding. But feuds do not vanish. They learn manners. You see it in the eyes across the table. The silver is heavy. The insult is heavier. Money can mend a cut in a family line. Can also leave a bruise you cannot see. One side feels lighter. The other side feels marked. You harmed me. Then you paid. Then you walked away. That can be a new seed for old anger. People are people. The law cannot edit hearts with a coin. A thin boy carries a jar to the table. He sets it down with care. Honey glows inside. Payment did not come in coins alone. Cattle, cloth, sacks of grain, rings. Even jars like this could serve as a substitute for silver. Value is value. Food feeds peace very well. The hall smells sweeter now. Your eyes soften at the glow. The clerk opens a small book. He lists the names. He writes the sum. He marks the day. His pen scratches like a cricket. He likes that sound. You do too. It says, "We will remember this right." He sands the ink and blows. The page turns. A crow hits the windowsill outside and peers in. Birds again. This one looks like an accountant. It tilts its head as if to check the sums. You whisper, "We are good here, friend." It blinks. It does not leave. It must be a union. Here comes tonight's pillow fight. Historians still argue whether people paid the full wergild often, or if most cases ended in smaller deals made in kitchens and yards. They still argue whether the charts we read were firm rules or ideals that sat on a page while real folks haggled under the rafters. Records show both. Stories from the street show both too. The truth is a scale, always tipping one way or the other. You touch the cut coin again. The cross lines up with the knife mark. It makes 4 neat parts. You like simple math. You also want to sleep. Your brain files this as fun currency fact for later. You will pull it out at a party one day and watch eyes light up. Then you will say sorry and talk about cats. A man comes in with a pole across his shoulders. 2 geese dangle on a string. He nods to the group and waits. He means to pay the small fee he owes the town. The beaks wag in rhythm. Remember the goose by the stalks? His cousins do not care about your legal lesson. They care about grain. They glare at the coins like tiny tax inspectors. You smile. They do not smile back. You step to a side table. A square of wax rests on a board. A ring stamp sits beside it. The judge warms the ring, presses it into the wax, and leaves a mark. The deal is sealed. The wax will sit on a cord tied around the tally. It looks pretty. It also warns fingers. Please do not break this seal unless you mean it. Someone whispers about a case gone wrong. A man paid late. The other side mocked him in the lane. He threw the coins in a gutter in shame. Then the old anger burned again. The sheriff stepped in. A new fine grew out of the insult about the old fine. You sigh. Jokes are nice. Jokes are sharp. Use with care. We have learned that lesson many times tonight. Another fact drifts over the table like steam. If you refuse to pay, and your kin refuse too, the law can cast you out. Outlaw. No shelter. No help. In some places they called you a wolf. You became fair game. The word feels cold in your mouth. It fits the night outside the window. You stand closer to the fire on reflex. A woman touches the coins and nods in agreement. She says, "This ends it." She puts the bag away. She rests her hand on the arm of the man beside her. It appears as a small house on a storm map, built sturdy and low. The room warms. This is what the money is for. Not greed, not show, quiet. The chance to lay a feud down and let the next day begin. You drift to the door as the group breaks up. The clerk blows the candles and grins at you. He mouths, "Come back with taxes." You mouth back, "Hard pass." He laughs without sound, a joke for two. No one else needs to hear it. Your feet find the lane. The air is cool and still. The moon sits in a pocket of cloud. Your lantern throws a soft pool ahead of you. Your mind slides to stone arches in the near dark. You think of steps. You think of singing. You think of a place where you do not pay with silver at all. You pay with time, with prayers, and sometimes with bread to the poor. You hear a bell, thin and kind. Calls. You follow it toward the churchyard and the long shadow of a door left open for the night. You step through the porch and into cool stone. The air smells like wax, rain, and old wood. Candles glow like small moons along the nave. Their light makes the floor shine. The sound of your shoes fades fast. It is like walking in a warm hush. A heavy ring hangs on the inside of the door. It is a great bronze knocker shaped like a beast's head. Its eyes bulge. Its teeth grin. You lift it and let it fall once. The clunk rolls down the aisles. A shadow moves by the choir screen. A monk in a brown habit comes slowly. He nods. He looks kind and very awake. You say the old words under your breath. "I take sanctuary." He raises a hand and leads you to a bench near the chancel. The bench has wide arms and a deep seat. Some towns call it a frithstool, a peace chair. Your shoulders drop when you sit. The wood is smooth. Feels like a safe island in a hard sea. Here is a firm fact. In England and some other lands, a person could claim church sanctuary for a serious charge. 40 days was the usual shield. In those days, you could not be dragged out. You could eat, pray, and think. Then you had to choose, stand trial, or confess and abjure the realm, which meant exile. It is a hard menu. No dessert. The monk sets a small loaf and a cup in your hand. Bread and ale. Simple gifts. The church nourishes both the soul and the stomach. There are rules. No weapons. No fights inside. No swagger. The door is a line no one should cross with a drawn blade. Even sheriffs nod to that line. Most of the time, anyway. You look up. The rafters are high and dark. Pigeons perch and mutter. You knew birds would be here, too. They keep showing up on our tour like tiny jurors with wings. One shakes itself and drops a feather. It lands near your shoe like a white comma. You smile. Not all church justice cuts. Many punishments here try to mend. The monk opens a small book. He asks soft questions. He listens. He sets a penance. It might be fast. It might be a prayer said every day for a month. It might be a walk around the church barefoot with a candle in your hands. It may be a means for people experiencing poverty. Hard but less harsh than iron. No stocks. No pillory. Still a lesson. Still public sometimes. A person could stand at the church door in a plain white sheet and ask for pardon. A chilly morning is a good teacher. A quirky bit waits by the door. Some prominent sanctuaries kept special gear. At Durham, a seeker of sanctuary got a black gown with a yellow cross. A badge for safety. You could wear it and move within set lines. Step outside the bounds, and your shield fell away. This was a pass with a map, not a magic cloak. Nice cloak, though. Needs pockets. The monk shows you a hair shirt on a peg. You touch it and pull back fast. It feels like a bramble made into a sweater. People wore it under clothes to remind their bodies to behave. 0 thread count. 5-star scratch. You get the idea. You ask about big sins. He sighs and nods. Church courts hear many things. Marriage fights. Broken vows. Slander. Working on holy days. Small theft. Big lies. The court does not break bones. It breaks pride. It bans. Defines. It involves setting long prayers and taking long walks. Excommunication sits high on that shelf. cut off from the sacraments, cut from the life of the town. People fear that more than a stick. A soul hates a locked door. You have heard a phrase: bell, book, and candle. A formal curse. A hush falls when you say it. The monk half smiles. He has seen many colors of that ritual in stories. Historians still debate whether the entire drama of a slammed book and snuffed lights was common or rare. The idea is clear, though. You are out until you make peace. The monk points at a little desk in a side chapel. He says some people seek a different shield, the benefit of clergy. First, that meant real clergy. Later, reading a verse could be proof. The test was simple. Read a line from a psalm. Psalm 51 got famous for this. People called it the neck verse, since it could save your neck. Some men memorized the words just in case. The court then transferred the case to the church's hands. Penances followed. Lighter paths. Some courts later marked the thumb so a man could not claim that benefit twice. The brand was a quiet warning. No spoilers for your next court date. Your eyes drift to a side door. Through it, you see a long, narrow lane. That is the path for abjurers. If you choose exile, you take a cross staff from the church and walk to a port. You say your route out loud. You stick to that road. You do not step off. You do not sleep in a house. You reach the sea and leave on the first ship. If you turn aside, the law catches you. Not a fun hike. No snacks. No scenic detours. Your membership card is your feet. Pilgrim stops by the font. He wears a hat with a scallop shell on the brim. That shell is a sign of the road to a far shrine. Pilgrimage can be a penance too. Walk to a holy place. Pray there. Come back changed. Or do not come back at all. Settle somewhere new. Start a quiet life. That can be a cure that sticks. You ask the monk about numbers. He shrugs. He says that some years the porch fills with seekers. Other years it is quiet. Historians still debate whether the sanctuary saved many lives or mainly delayed a harsh outcome. They still argue about how often abjurers made it to a ship and how frequently they slipped back home by night. Records show names. Paths blur in the rain. You touch the frith stool again. The wood is warm now, so many hands, so many sighs. The monk tells you a plain fact. Sanctuary never covered all crimes. Some charges were too dark to be shielded. Kings narrowed the list over time. Towns watched the lines too. Even so, the idea held on. A door that means stop. A place that means wait. A deep breath before a swing. The choir stalls creak as a novice passes. He carries a broom. He nods to you and sweeps with small care. You think of all the places we saw where punishment was loud. Here it is slow. It is steady. It wants to fold you back into the group. It does not want to spit you out. That is a different kind of power. The monk leads you along the nave. He points to a stone set in the floor near the door. It marks the edge of the church's safe line. Some places had more marks outside, like a ring around the church. Crosses on posts. A gate. A ditch. The line matters. Inside, one law leads. Outside, another waits. The hourglass on the pillory showed time. These stones show space. Together, they fence the wild. You ask about food and sleep. He smiles and shrugs. The church gives the basics. A mat. A corner near the porch. You are safe, not spoiled. No minibar. No room service. If you snore, the pigeons will complain to management. He takes you to a side altar. A small box sits there. It is for offerings. Coins ring inside when you tip one in. You think of the scale in the hall. You think of the stocks and the apple piles. A town is a web of small ties. Money, honor, prayer, joke. Each strand matters. Pull one and the others tremble. You sit a while and listen to the long quiet. It has layers. Wind in men's cloaks. A cough in a side chapel. Wax tears. A bell far off. A dog's single bark. Then you hear a dull sound from the lane outside. Iron on iron. A bar slides. A door groans. It is the town jail, a place where waiting is also a punishment. The monk follows your gaze. He nods. His eyes look sad. He walks you back to the porch. He lifts the ring and lets it fall once more. The sound feels like a blessing and a warning at the same time. He puts a hand on your sleeve. Go safe, he says. You thank him. You step down into the night. The air is colder now. The moon hides behind clouds. Your lantern throws a soft oval on the ground. A rat skitters into a drain. Your foot finds the rhythm of the street again. You pass the church wall and see a low, square house with one small window. A candle burns behind a grate. A voice mutters, a key clicks. The straw inside smells like old rain. You pause at the door and feel the weight of the bar through the wood. You breathe in. You breathe out. Then you lift the latch and step toward a bed no one would book by choice. The door creaks as it opens. Iron scrapes stone. Cold air rolls over your face. Smells like wet straw, smoke, and old sweat. Your lantern pushes a slow ring into the dark. A big key hangs from a belt. The turnkey yawns. He has night eyes and careful hands. He nods you in. The floor is packed earth. The walls are soft with lime wash. A ring sits low in the stone. A short chain lies coiled nearby like a sleepy snake. A bench runs along one side. On it sits a bundle of straw. It is called a mattress if you are kind. You touch it. It scratches like a cat with opinions. No mint on the pillow, unless a beetle counts. You listen. A cough in the far cell. A whisper. The clink of a cup at the bars. That sound, by the way, gives a name to one famous prison in London. The clink. Yes, that is real. A quirky gift from the past to your slang. Someone in Southwark is still rolling their eyes at how catchy it became. The turnkey peers at your shoes. He tilts his head toward a small hatch. Fees, he says. You nod. He shrugs, almost sorry. Here is a firm fact. Goals are not hotels. They are businesses. Prisoners pay for food. They pay for straw. They pay to have the irons removed for a bit. They pay again to have them put back on. They even pay to leave when the time comes. A fee to get in and a fee to get out. It is a circle that makes your jaw go tight. You lift the hatch's latch. A woman on the other side sells bowls of broth. Steam smells like leeks and hope. She is the jailer's wife. She runs a tiny market for the locked. It is common. The town will not feed you. Your kin must bring food, or you beg through the bars. Some churches keep a box for prisoners' alms. Coins drop from kind hands. Not enough, but not nothing. A man sits cross-legged near the wall. His boots are neat. His hands are ink-stained. A merchant caught for debt. He rubs a tally stick with his thumb as if it could turn back into credit. Debtors fill many beds here. The logic is odd. Lock a man who owes until he pays. But how can he pay from a cell? The answer is family, friends, and the slow sale of goods. It grinds like a mill. It wears everyone thin. You step to the bars and look into another cell. 3 men are chained together by their ankles. The iron runs to that ring in the wall. One hums. One sleeps. One stares at your light. He nods once. Not unkind. Just there. Time is thick here. It sits on the chest. It slows the voice. It makes your eyes heavy even when you do not want to sleep. A rat scuttles across the far threshold, pauses, and sniffs. Carries a crumb like a waiter with a tray. Room service is prompt. Stars deducted for charm. You smile even as your skin crawls. The straw rustles. Lice make their own law. People called the sickness that rides on them jail fever. You know it as typhus. They did not know the cause. They saw the pattern. Crowds meet in court. The air turns hot. Then people fall sick. Judges sometimes fell too. The fear was real. The name stuck. A boy with a swollen ankle lifts his leg to show a welt from his shackle. He grins at you because he is still good at grins. You hand him a crust from your pocket. He says thank you in a whisper. The turnkey pretends not to see. Small kindness lives here in little pockets. It makes a tiny crack in the wall of the night. You step into a larger room. It is for those who can pay more. A chamber upstairs. Less damp. Maybe a window. In some jails, a rich prisoner can rent a real bed and a fire. He can even send for books. He still pays the fees. He still faces the judge. He sneezes less while he waits. Money works even when the door is locked. You point at a wooden bar on the floor. The turnkey taps it with his boot. Bilboes, he says. Iron bars with hoops to lock ankles. They bite less than short chains. They also keep you in one place. He does not sound mean. He sounds like a man naming tools in a shed. Work is work. Keys are keys. You ask how long people wait. He shrugs. Weeks, months, until the next jail delivery. When royal judges ride in and hear the pile of cases, they try to clear the cages. Some go free. Some pay a fine, some move on to a worse room. Many are just sent home with a warning and a sore back. Waiting was half their sentence. Sometimes all of it. He points to a board with names. Some lines have a mark next to them. That means bail. Friends stood surety. They promised to bring the person back on the right day. A bond keeps a body out of a chain. It is a lifeline made of trust. Break it and you burn the rope for everyone. A cough rattles the hall. The smell shifts and grows sharp. A bucket sits near the door. It is for what you think it is for. A boy lugs it out into the yard. He does this twice a day, 3 times if the gods are kind. Straw helps. Lime helps. But the room is a nose test all the same. You touch the straw again. Prickles your palm. The turnkey sees your face and almost laughs. New, he says. Last week. Fresh is a big word in a goal. 5-star straw tonight. Do not expect turn-down service. Your mind drifts to the stories of pits and chains in old towers. Oubliettes, people call them. Forgetting places. Does this town have one? He shakes his head. Most goals are not pits. They are houses with bars. They smell. They crowd. They charge. They are bad enough without a hidden hole with a trapdoor. Still, a few castles used such pits. They hide in legends like spiders in bottles. Historians still argue whether such cells were common punishments or rare showpieces for a lord's temper. The word dungeon does a lot of heavy lifting in tales. A sparrow hops along the sill and looks in. You knew a bird would find us. Pecks at a crumb and flits away. Even here, small wings write tiny notes in the air. You feel a little better. Across the room, a woman speaks through the bars to her husband. She brings a blanket and a kiss through her fingers. She also brings news. A neighbor will keep their cow. A cousin will watch the gate. The world outside is not frozen. It holds its own time while a body sits on a straw and counts ceiling cracks. You ask about the rules. He lists them like a grocery run. No knives. No fights if you want water. No loud songs after the curfew bell. Pay the straw fee on the 1st of the month. Pay the discharge fee when the writ comes. Pay for the irons off. Pay for irons on. He shrugs at your face again. I know, he says. I know. He is not the system's boss. He turns the key. He tells you a rumor about a scribe who wrote letters for prisoners in exchange for a corner space near the window. He did good work. He saved a few lives with a neat hand. He drank ale too fast and signed the wrong name one night. The court asked for John. No John came. The scribe spent 1 month on the floor he had rented. He wrote his own plea. It worked. He swore off ale for 2 weeks. You run your finger over a carved line on the doorpost. It is a row of tiny marks, like a child's ladder. 1 line each day. Climbs, then stops. You hope the last mark means release, not silence. You hope that a small hand in this place found a bigger hand outside and did not let go. Here is your debate to drift on as you walk. Historians still argue whether most medieval jails were hellish holes most of the time, or crowded, rough hostels where people came and went with more freedom than we think. Records show both. A county hall with a chamber for hire. A city jail where men starved in chains. Time and place set the dial. Luck turns it. The turnkey brings you back to the door. He sets his hand on the beam. He looks at you as if to say, enough for 1 night. You agree. Your lungs agree. Your hair agrees. You leave 1 coin by the hatch. The woman gives you a nod and a heel of bread. It is hard, but it is warm. You tuck it away. You will give it to the boy with the bucket if you see him again. Outside, the air tastes clean. You breathe slowly. The sky looks higher after any low room. The church bell murmurs the hour. Footsteps whisper in the lane. A rooster argues with the moon. You roll your shoulders and feel your weight again. From here, The road bends toward the court. You can almost hear the crier warm his voice. Loves wait there. Questions wait there. Choices wait there, too. You lift your lantern and follow the curve of the stones. The light slides ahead like a patient guide. Your feet hush on the road. Your thoughts grow quiet and sharp. The door ahead will be heavy. The words inside will be heavier. But you know the trick now. Breathe in. Breathe out. Walk softly. Listen hard. The court smells like wax, wool, and damp stone. Benches line the room like wooden ribs. A big table waits in the middle. Candles make sleepy halos. A crier taps a staff on the floor. The sound feels like a lid closing. You sit near the back and breathe slowly. Your lantern stays low. Eyes lift. Voices hush. It is a careful hive. The clerk dips his quill. It is a real goose feather. Our goose tour continues. He writes names neatly. The judge settles his robe. It looks heavy and warm. A bell outside gives one soft note. The door slides shut. The room holds its breath. The crier calls the first case. A man steps to the bar. He looks pale. He looks brave. He looks like most of us would look. The clerk holds out a book. The man puts his hand on it. He kisses it. He swears to tell the truth. He stumbles on one word and blushes. We have all been there. Talking is harder when everyone listens. 12 men stand to one side. Neighbors, traders, a reeve, a smith. Their boots creak. They raise their hands and swear too. They are the jury. They will hear. They will weigh. They will speak at the end. Not with a speech, with a single word. That is the plan. Here is a firm fact. In the 1100s, King Henry II shaped this path. His rules at Clarendon in 1166 set presentment juries to name suspects. Later, trial juries sat to decide guilt. 12 locals swore to tell what they knew and what they believed. After 1215, when priests stopped blessing ordeals, juries became the main route for significant cases. Your feet feel how old this floor is. The judge asks the man at the bar, "How do you plead?" The room tilts toward him. He must say one of two words, guilty or not. He swallows. He says, "Not guilty," and breathes again. The clerk smiles a tiny smile. The gears of the room begin to turn. But not everyone answers. Some people stand mute, and the law hates a blank line. It needs a word to move. The clerk lifts his face. He listens. He waits. Silence fills the cracks in the floor. The judge leans in. He asks again. The man stares. Some are silent because they cannot speak. Deaf, dumb, hurt. Some are silent by choice. The old law gave names for this. Mute by visitation of God, or mute of malice. The first led to mercy. The second led to a hard path. You have heard of it, the press. In England, they called it peine forte et dure, intense and brutal punishment. In the late 1200s, the law set strong and hard imprisonment for those who refused to plead. Later centuries refined that rule into a body test with boards and weights. Prisoner lay on the floor. A board sat on the chest. Stones stacked slowly. Bread one day, water the next. The plan was simple. Speak and the press stops. Stay silent and the board stays. The goal was not a scene. It was a word. Why would anyone choose silence? The property sat in the middle of that choice. A conviction for a grave crime could strip you of your goods and land. The crown took them. Your family lost the lot. But if you never pleaded, there was no verdict. No verdict, no formal loss. Your heirs might keep the house. Some people held their breath for that reason. They took the press and saved the roof for their kids. Parents' math is fierce. A guard shifts by the door. His keys clink like small bells. He knows the press yard. He knows the boards. He does not like them. No one does. But the law moves on its own feet. It leans on words. It will push for one if it must. The jury settles on the benches. They look down at wax drops on the floor. They are not strangers to the case. These are neighbors. They know rumors. They know fences. They know who owns a quick dog and who owns a slow one. Early juries were not blank slates. They were living files. Historians still argue whether those jurors were meant to be neutral finders like today, or witness judges who told the court what the town already knew. The truth shifts by county and year. The candles nod in agreement. A woman steps to the bar next. She looks calm but sharp. The clerk asks if there is any reason the sentence for her case, if it comes, should wait. She says 2 words. With child. Pregnant. The court cannot move her to a no-return punishment if a child lives inside. A jury of matrons is called. Local wives and widows check. It is awkward. It is also a strange mercy. If they say yes, the law pauses. A life gets time. That tiny clock matters. Quirky, yes. Also kind in its way. The judge calls a witness. He steps up and swears. He tells what he saw. He tells what he heard. He stumbles once and tells what he guesses. The judge clears his throat. Facts, he says. The room smiles on the inside. We all do that. We add spice to plain soup. The clerk writes in his neat crab hand. His quill does cardio. Keeps up. A small boy peeks from behind a pillar. He looks for birds. He sees a pigeon near a beam and grins. The pigeon blinks back. Even here, wings watch. This one is a court fan. Or it just likes the warm roof. Another witness holds up a hand and shows a scar. He says, "He did this." The jury leans in. One juror squints. He is the ale taster for the ward. He has a good nose for tricks. He does not sniff the scar. He looks at faces. He knows when a story breathes and when it limps. The clerk reads a list. If found guilty, the man could face the pillory for perjury. Yes, the same tall frame by the market. You saw it. You smelled the onions. Oaths matter here. Perjury bites. Fines bite too. But pride bites the most. There is a persistent old belief that appears in some books. Some lands once used a corpse as a silent witness. If a suspect touched the body and the wound bled fresh, that was a sign. People called it the beer test. Not the law in every place. It sits at the edge of folklore and proof. You do not have to like it. It is worth noting that people have tried many doors to find the truth. The judge asks the man at the bar to speak again. He does. He says his word. The press will not come for him. He will face the jury. He will face their eyes, and their boots, and their lunch plans. Jurors sometimes stayed until they chose. No meat, no fire, no bed. They could not leave until a verdict came. That is a subtle press of its own. Time is a stone too. Here is another fact that hums under the benches. If a jury gave a wild verdict, the law could punish them for it. A jury of adherent could sit in review and impose fines. It was rare and it faded. But it tells you how tense this idea was. 12 neighbors. 1 life. A heavy ask. You think of all our rooms tonight. Stocks. Pillory. Ordeal yard. Dual sand. The church chair. The goal. Each spot wanted words or signs or coins. This room wants a word first. Guilty. Or not. No tomatoes fly here either. Still not in season for us. Poor tomatoes. They would have loved this stage. The judge nods to the jury. They rise and step into a side room. The door shuts. Sound drops. The candles sigh. You picture bread on one table and a jug of water on another. You picture 12 faces looking at each other and thinking of fences, and dogs, and who keeps his word at the mill. No one scrolls. No one checks a feed. They check their own heads. Your eyes drift to a side door. It is heavy. It has iron rings. Beyond it is a smaller chamber. Ropes hang there, not for show, not for the stage, for questions, for rules about questions. You will go there next, but not yet. You stay with the jury a little longer. You let the quiet grow. You let your own head decide what you would say if the judge asked you to speak. The door opens. The 12 shuffle back in. Their faces are soft. They look like men who lifted sacks all day. The foreman steps forward. His voice is low. He says one word. The clerk writes it. The judge nods. The crier taps the floor. The room begins to breathe again. Case ends. Another begins. The wheel turns. You stand and smooth your sleeve. Your lantern paints a gold oval on the stone. It slides toward that side door with the rings. The air is cooler there. The light is thin. You can feel the hush change shape. Confession is king in the next room. So are rules. So is doubt. You touch the wood. You count to 3 like you did by the ordeal chalk. Then you lift the latch and step through. The door closes behind you with a shy thud. The room smells like hemp rope, warm wax, and old leather. Iron rings blink from the walls. A beam crosses the ceiling. A rope hangs from it like a patient snake. A long frame crouches to one side. Wood, rollers, straps. Your lantern brushes it and stops. Your breath slows on purpose. A scribe sits at a little desk. He has a wax tablet and a pen knife. He looks up once and nods. Then he writes a line. Someone will read that line in a year and feel this air again. A tidy man with a heavy job. A bucket stands near the door. A folded cloth sits on its lip. A stool waits by the rope. A small chest holds cords, wedges, and narrow belts. Each tool looks plain. None looks like a theater. That makes them feel louder. Here is a firm fact. After 1215, when ordeals faded, many town and church courts on the continent adopted Roman canon law. Those rules let judges ask the question if they held half-proof. One strong witness, a stash, a bad track, not enough to convict, enough to press for the truth. Confession was king, but it had to be made again later freely for the record to count. You touch the rope. It feels smooth with tallow. The knot is neat. The loop is small. This is for the strappado. Hands tied behind your back. The rope lifts your arms. Not a yoga class. No points for form. The lift can be a slow float or a short jerk. Jerk is worse. Do not try this at your gym. The extended frame is the rack. Rollers at each end. Straps at wrists and ankles. A windlass turns. The body learns new maps. In England, the common law did not use torture as part of the trial. Pressing for a plea was its own path, not an ask. The rack there came by special order from the crown, and mostly in later ages. In many towns across Europe, though, this room was part of court life. Rare but real. The scribe clears his throat. He reads articles. Short, careful questions. No fishing if the judge keeps the rules. No, tell me everything. Just, were you at the mill that night? Who was with you? The judge wants names, times, and words that stand. The scribe wants neat lines. He always wants neat lines. A figure in a dark apron steps in. He is the question master. In some cities, he is also the hangman, the knackerman, and the street cleaner. A quirky civic bundle, right? He sets bones on the side for extra coin. He lives by the gate. Kids dare each other to tap on his door and run. He waters his herbs at dawn when no one else walks by. Rules wrap this room like cords. No loss of life. No loss of limb. Not on children. Not on the very old. Not in pregnant women. Not on holy days in some places. A doctor may stand by to check pulse and breath. The judge will sign off. The city will log the time. The words once only sit in the book. But judges sometimes call a new hour a continuation, not a fresh start. That tiny word did a lot of work. The strappado rope creaks. You flinch. It is just the wood settling. Calm, brave you. Totally calm. The scribe almost smiles. You think of water, not the pool in the ordeal yard. Here, the water cure sits on a shelf in some regions. Cloth, jug, a slow pour, panic more than pain. It appears in a few books with a shy face. It stays there most of the time. This room is more about ropes and cords. It is also about silence and the fear of it. The judge steps in. He speaks low. He says the rules out loud. He asks the questions once more. Confession without the rope is best. He points to the rope only when the page says he can. He looks tired. This is all hard to carry, even with ink. You remember the press from court. Stones for silence. Here is a different medium. Pushes for speech. The law wants a word it can write. A word it can repeat tomorrow without rope or frame, before dawn bread. If the words match, the page holds. If not, the page blushes and gets ripped. A boy opens the shutter a crack. cold air steps in. An owl blinks at you from the beam outside. Birds keep finding us. This one looks very wise. It bobs its head as if to say, "Ask better questions." "Good idea, friend." We try. The scribe notes small things. A pause. A sigh. A name. The judge stops and asks the man if he wants to pray. He does. He also wants a cup of water. Both happen. Mercy threads through even here. Thin thread, yes. But it is there. You run your hand along the side of the rack. The wood is smooth. The roller's teeth are blunt with time. You picture a slow turn and a fast stop. You picture a swallow that hurts. You stop there. Your mind does not need a complete picture. Sleep is still the plan tonight. Jokes do sneak in. The question master says, "No, you cannot stretch me first to show how it feels." Then he groans at his own line. You groan too. Comedy hour ends fast. Here comes your debate to keep. Historians still argue whether torture was used often in daily town courts, or if it sat as a threat more than a habit. They still say whether the no-blood rule truly softened the room, or if it just guided tools to leave no marks that ink could not count. They cross-check logs and they squint at gaps. The owl on the beam would like the footnotes. The judge points to the scribe. The scribe points to the wax. Confession made here must be repeated later, in a clean room. No rope, no apron, just a pen and a witness. If the words fall apart there, this hour fails. The law likes double locks on a door like this. You glance at a shelf. A small wooden wedge sits there. It is for the shin in some places. People call it a boot, even when it looks like a clamp. Some regions used cords around fingers. Some used a small press for thumbs. Simple tools. Hard lessons. You find you like ink far more than rope. A bell taps far away. The hour rolls. The judge closes the session with a short prayer. The question ends. The scribe blows on the page and sprinkles sand. The apron man coils the rope like a sailor. He is neat. He is quiet. He leaves first. He walks to his side door by the alley and slips into the kind of night that looks the other way. You step back to the threshold and breathe. The air outside feels big. The moon is back. Your lantern warms your hands. You think of the ordeal yard and the chalk paces. You think of the pillory and the hourglass. This room sits with them in your head, but it leans harder, chases words. It sets traps for sound. You pause at a small painted board near the door. It pictures a saint with a book and a finger to his lips. The title says, "Keep counsel." The hint is plain. Do not gossip about this hall. Secrets here are heavy. They travel badly. You hear a different sound now. A drone of voices. Not shouts. Not groans. A sermon tone. It slides in from a hall across the yard. You see a lectern. You see a stack of books. You know a seal stamped with a cross and a sword. You smell ink and tallow and a hint of spice from far lands. People sit on benches. They hold breath the way the court did. But the words are about belief, not fences or mills. Your steps carry you that way. Your shoulder brushes the rope one last time, and you are glad to feel it fall behind you. You pass under a slight arch. The room beyond is brighter than the question chamber. Candles crowd around a painted panel. A clerk in black looks up. He smiles, but only with his mouth. His eyes are careful. He waves you to a bench. He opens a book. He says a greeting that sounds like a prayer and a warning, all in one. You sit. You listen. You feel the tone shift from ropes to rules about words and faith. You rub the sore spot in your mind where the rack used to live for a minute. It fades. You let it go. You look at the book's margins on the desk. Neat, clean, ready for notes. It will need many. You shift on the bench. Creaks like a tiny boat. A friar in black and white steps up. His robe moves like a shadow. A blue seal with a cross and a sword sits by his hand. A notary warms his ink and looks very proud of his neat lines. The air smells like wax and old parchment. Your foot goes a bit numb. It is fine. The numb foot is your penance for sitting through a long talk. The friar raises a palm. He speaks clearly and slowly. He reads a notice. All who have strayed in belief may come forward. They have a set number of days. Confess, mend, Be received. People call this a grace time. The words are soft, but the room feels tight. You know why? Belief is not a small thing here. It ties to law, family, and bread. He lists the signs they watch. Meetings at night, refusing to swear, skipping Massachusetts, mocking the sacraments, teaching without leave, hiding books, and not eating meat ever and calling it holy. That last one sits like a clue. In the South, Cathars once preached a world split between light and dark. Their perfect diet had no meat or eggs. They shunned oaths. They scorned church rule. Others, like the Waldensians, preached poverty and read scripture in the street without a bishop's nod. Heresy is not just an odd view. It is a stubborn wrong after baptism. That is how this room defines it. Here is a firm fact. In the 1200s, popes established papal inquisitors, often Dominicans, to investigate heresy according to established rules. Gregory IX moved first. Later, in 1252, Innocent IV allowed limited use of torture for heresy under civic watch, with no loss of limb and no threat to life. Confession made under strain had to be repeated freely. Paperwork ruled as much as fear. You see that in the neat stacks at the notary's elbow. He opens a chest. Books glint with clasps. One sits on a chain. People chain books to keep them safe. Theft hurts, so do bad margins. Quirky scribe curses in old copies, glaring at thieves. May your hand wither if you steal me. Fun bedtime line. The friar strokes a spine as if it were a cat. He is gentle with pages even when he is not gentle with ideas. A man stands. He is thin. He looks exhausted. He says he went to a house where people sang in a plain room. No priest. No wine at the table. Only bread. They spoke of a simple life. They mocked gold cups. He names no names. The friar sighs. He asks for names. The man gives two. The notary's quill nods along. This feels hard. The town learns to be careful with dinner talk. The friar asks questions in small bites. He does not offer trick lines. He asks about dates, places, and who brought the bread. Bernard Gouet, a famous inquisitor, wrote a fat manual for this work. It lists patterns and tells how to listen. Do not leap, he warns. He loved order. He loved clean lists. You can see a ghost of his hand in this room, even if he never stood here in life. The rope in the next hall casts a shadow into this room. Some inquisitors used it when the books allowed and when city law stood by. You heard the rules in the last room. No blood, no ruin of limb, a doctor on hand. The record must be held later in a quiet space. The friar here points to his seal more than his rope. He tries words first. He speaks like a careful teacher who wants the correct answer. And your soul. A young woman steps up. She has a small baby. She says she once listened to the wrong teaching. She says she is sorry. She will wear the mark. The friar nods. He names a penance. She must sew 2 yellow crosses on her cloak, front and back. They will show at the market and the church. She must walk in a procession with a candle and beg pardon. She must give bread to people experiencing poverty. Hard, but she keeps her life, her child, and her road. A cross is a map and a warning. I strayed. Do not follow me there. Sometimes men carry a small bundle of sticks in a penance walk. It means, I once earned a fire, but mercy kept me. They hand the sticks to the beadle at the end. The fire remains a sign, not a fate. That is a relief you can feel in your knees. The friar reads one more clause. If you return to the old error after mercy, the court cannot help you again. That word is relapse. It is the worst word in this room. A relapsed heretic is abandoned to the secular arm. The friar asks the town to be kind. He says, without shedding blood. Everyone knows what follows in most places. A stake in the square. A rope. Prayer. No further details here. Your mind already makes too many pictures. We keep our sleep tonight. Your bench creaks again and scolds you for fidgeting. You whisper sorry to the wood. It accepts. You are on good terms with furniture by now. The notary coughs once and adjusts his sandbox. He loves his job. He tells you with his eyes that sand is the real hero of law. You nod like you understand. Sure. Team Sand. The friar points out what will not happen here tonight. No auto-da-fe parade like in later Spanish days. That is a different time and place. This room is more sermon than show. It resembles a lengthy court hearing. There will be no drums. There will be much ink. You run a thumb over the bench edge. Your skin feels the tiny cuts there. Someone long ago carved a fish. Someone carved a star. People wait and they carve. People wait and they think. They count things in their heads. Doors, days, coins, risks. A swallow loops under the rafters, then perches by a beam. Wings again. This bird likes sermons. Or bugs. Maybe both. It sits like a tiny bishop in a feathered cape. You give it a nod. It looks like it nods back. You two are friends now. A man in the corner warns his cousin in a whisper. Do not mock this room out loud, even if you think it is slow. The rules are tight. One wrong word can twist into outcry. That is its own offense. The friar does not want jokes. He wants order. He wants souls tidy and in a row. Your inner comic sighs and folds his arms. He will reopen later by the river. Promise. Here is the pillow fight for this stop. Historians still argue whether inquisitors burned many people in the Middle Ages, or if most cases ended with penances, fines, and crosses. They also argue how many people in towns asked for help against heretics, and how much came down from popes and kings. Numbers move by region and year. Languedoc is not Lombardy. Lombardy is not Leon. The chart is not one line. It is a braid. A clerk brings out a chest with small tin badges. Pilgrims earn these at shrines. Some penances send people on the road. Rome, Compostela, local saints. Long walks change minds, or at least legs. The clerk holds up a shell badge and smiles. He has a cousin who sells soup by the bridge to these walkers. Penance feeds the town, he says. Then he blushes. It was a joke. It escapes and waves to you. You wave back. We like an honest joke. The friar closes the book. He blesses the room. He asks people to bring books in for checking. He warns that some texts can sit in the chest, but not in your house. He loves margins so much that he hates bad ones. That tracks. He sends 2 men to inspect a cellar where meetings may have taken place. They will be polite, he says. They will be quick. They will ask only what the seal asks. Still feels heavy. Doors are thin when fear knocks. You stand. Your foot wakes and tingles. The bench releases you with a squeak that sounds like, "Go in peace." You bow your head a little. You mean it. Heavy rooms deserve a nod when you leave. Outside, the air feels wide again. Stars chew on the edge of a cloud. A river talks in a low voice down the slope. Light dances there. Laughter too. Sharp, silly, and bright. Pans bang. Someone beats a pot like a drum. A long pole stands by the bank with a seat on a beam. The seat looks like a chair with a mean streak. You know this tool by rumor. It lives by water and by gossip. You ease down the path. The ground turns to damp boards. A crowd shifts to make room. Your lantern draws a small path straight to the edge. This justice is loud. It splashes. Polices mouths and marriages. Smells like ale, river, and rain. You take a breath and let the sermon fall from your shoulders. You keep the lessons. You let the weight go. You tip your head to the swallow once more, then face the stool by the water. The crowd hums. The bell on the bridge gives a sleepy clink. Your hands find the rail. Your eyes find the chair. Your ears find the jokes. Sleep will wait. You will watch the splashy court and see what a town does when it thinks a tongue needs a dunk. Boards creak under your feet. River mist kisses your face. The crowd hums like a hive that found a drum. You slide closer. The stool sits on a long beam. It looks like a chair that lost a dare. A rope runs from the far end of the beam to a wheel. 2 men grip the wheel. They grin. They should not grin this much at furniture. Your lantern throws a warm line over the wet wood. Ripples wink back. A beetle grips a staff. He reads a short charge. Scold. That word rides hard here. It means a tongue that cuts. Loud fights in lanes. Wild words at the market. Trouble with neighbors. Not a crime of blood, a crime of noise. The town wants the noise to stop. It wants the air to rest. You feel that wish in your chest, too. Here is a firm fact. Medieval towns kept cucking stools for public shaming. Some were set by water. Some were on wheels. Records tie them to sour ale, scolding, and sex work. By late medieval days and into later ages, the chair on a beam by water, the ducking stool, took center stage in England. The plan was simple. Tie in, lift, dunk. The crowd learns, pride chills. The woman at the rail stiffens. The beadle calls for quiet. He ties a strap. He does not tie it hard. This is not meant to kill. It is intended to cool a hot mouth. Or so the rules say. The men at the wheel get a nod. They pull. The beam lifts, the chair tips. You hear a squeal from someone in the crowd. Not the rider. The chair dips. Splash. Water leaps in a white ring and kisses your shoes. Free foot bath. 2 stars. Too cold. The chair rises. Water pours off like silver hair. The rider coughs. She spits the river out. She gasps and mutters one obscene word that rhymes with duck. The crowd laughs. The beadle frowns. The wheel turns. Down she goes again. Splash. Your face gets a misty hello. Your tongue tastes iron and leaf. The river does not accept apologies. It is ancient. It has no comment. You look at the post by the water. Names cut in it rise and fall like lines on a tide gauge. Some are shallow. Some are deep, the years layer. The chair creaks as if it knows them all. The beadle checks the knots with calm hands. This is routine. It should not be, but it is. A drummer boy taps the rim of a pot. Clank, clank, clank. More pots join. Lids, ladles. A horn bellows once. Rough music blooms. It is known as a chivalry in many places, or skimmington, or riding. A night parade with noise. It shames those who break the peace at home. Wife beaters, bullies, cruel men, cheaters, sometimes loud wives too. The crowd mocks the wrong in a small theater. People wear masks. They carry odd signs. A man rides a donkey backward, an effigy swings. A chimney pot becomes a hat. The point is, we see you. The hope is change. A quirky tidbit hums down the rail. In some towns, kids swung blown pig bladders on sticks. Whap, whap. They sounded like balloons that got jobs. Hilarious. Gross. Effective. A couple of them bounce now on strings in the front row like very old party favors. You note how the chair and the night parade link. Both are public. Both use noise. Both teach without a book. The pillory did this by height. The stool does it by splashing. The parade does it by sound. You think of the hourglass by the market and nod. Time and crowd are tools. They work hard. The drummer slows. The beadle lifts a hand. The wheel stops. The chair rises. The rider shakes like a dog. Water flies. The crowd ooze. The beadle reads a short passage. Quiet at night. No slander in lanes. Make peace with your neighbor. She nods and coughs. She stomps the boards once and glares at a woman in the back. That stare could bend iron. You hope the stare is the last blow tonight. A man near you whispers, "Could be me next." He grins, but not much. He tells you some towns used the stool for men, too. Bad ale. Bad words. Fraud. A brewer once sat here for thin beer. Remember the ale taster from the Pillory Square? He would have loved this beam. Best quality control ever, he would say. Then he would duck. Literally. You run your fingers along the beam. The grain is slick with years. You think of the early form, the cucking stool on wheels. They rolled the rider through the streets first. Market, cross, tavern. Laughter and hoots kept pace. Then they turned by the river. Dunk if the town rule said so. Or not. The ride alone could be the lesson. Here is where the debate begins. Historians still argue whether real dunkings were common in the Middle Ages, or if threat and parade did most of the work. They also say whether scold laws hit women far more than men, or if the records show women more because the label stuck. They argue how much of this was community care, and how much was simple bullying in a group hat. The truth bends by town, year, and who held the wheel. A gull slides low over the water and laughs its rude laugh. Birds keep finding us. This one has a critic's voice. Says, 2 out of 5. Too much splash. Not enough plot. You snort. The gull is harsh. You spot a wooden frame by the bench. It looks like a mask with a long metal tongue. You touch it and pull back. Cold. Sharp. People later referred to this as a scold's bridle or branks. Caged a mouth with iron. The tongue plate pressed on the tongue. Bells sometimes hung to mark each step. It is a later fashion in many places, not your pure medieval norm. But iron ideas travel in time. And they pinch the same way. You hope this town keeps that thing dusty. A woman at the edge of the crowd scolds the drummer boy when he gets too close to a puddle. He skids, laughs, and salutes. He joins a small line of kids pulling a cart. A straw dummy rides in the cart. A cap sits on its head. A broken spoon hangs on a cord like a medal. The kids chant a rhyme about a man who hit his wife and then got hit by spoons until he learned to cook. The rhyme is bad poetry. It is good politics. The night parade is warm to them. Feels like the town caught a wolf and turned it into a joke. The beetle orders a last dip. Down. Done. He cuts the strap and steps back. The rider sits. She breathes. She does not speak. The crowd drifts. Pots stop. Horns fade. The river keeps on. It does not care for laws. Cares for rain. You step toward the bridge as the last of the rough music walks home. A man carries a lantern made from a turnip. The candle inside wobbles. Shadows create a strange face on the rind. He hums. He is proud of his work. You do not laugh. It is a good lantern. It is also a good joke. Both things can be true. Your mind checks the boxes for this stop. Fact, check. Quirk, check. Debate, check. Jokes, drip dry, check. You yawn. The river answers with a tiny wave that pats the boards. Thank you, river. You are a pro at ASMR. A cat strolls along the rail and sits. It washes a paw. Pretends the water never touched it. Cats have steadfast legal minds. Never admit. Never explain. Always nap. You hear a snort from the bank. A pig noses in the mud and finds a peel. It munches with joy. A child laughs and says, "See you in court, sir." The mother shushes him. But your ears perk. Court? For a pig? Your brain raises one eyebrow. Then it raises the other. Both eyebrows are very awake now. Here is a soft hint from tomorrow's page. Sometimes animals stand before judges in real rooms. Pigs, goats, even swarms of bugs in a way. Priests speak to them. Lawyers do too. Orders go out. Leave this field. Do not bite. Sounds wild. It is a thing that happened. It is also a thing that sits right on the line between need, fear, and story. You leave the beam and the chair. You leave the wet boards. You step back onto the stone. Your shoes squish. You will not post that sound. It is not your brand. The bell on the bridge taps once. A low fog rolls in, smoothing every edge. Faces blur into soft coins of light. Your lantern floats like a small moon. A man with a scroll case walks by. He pats the case as if it were a dog. He says, "Busy morning. Strange docket." He does not explain. He does not have to. Your tour knows the beat now. You follow him toward a town square and a door with carved animals on the lintel. They look like they want to speak. They might. The river fades behind you. The rough music fades too. The night grows gentle again. Your shoulders drop. Your feet find a slow, sleepy pace. You hum the bad spoon rhyme once under your breath. It is not good. You smile anyway. The pig snorts in the dark and trots off. His hoofs click on stones like tiny hammers. You tuck the sound away. You will need it when the clerk says, "Call the next case." And a bristle shows at the bar. The lintel over the door bears carved beasts. A boar, a hare, a fox with a sly grin. You step in. The room smells like hay, ink, and pig. A clerk fans a page. A beetle stands with a staff. A rope leads to a corner. The rope ends at a pig. It blinks at you with calm eyes and an honest snout. It snuffles the floor and finds nothing. It grunts once like a cough. People slide onto benches. No drum, no rough music, only minor coughs and a rustle of wool. The clerk reads a short line. A child fell in the lane last week. Pig knocked him. The street shook. The family cried. The town woke up. The law turned its head. You feel the room hold that grief without words. No need to paint it. We keep the night kind. Here is a firm fact. In medieval towns, pigs roamed the streets. They cleaned scraps. They also hurt people. When that happened, courts sometimes tried and punished the animal. A famous case from 1386 in Falaise, in Normandy, tells of a sow judged for killing a child and then executed in public. This was rare but real. The point was order. The town said, "This harm counts." Owners learned to pen pigs. Pigs learned nothing. Pigs are pigs. The beetle ties the rope to a ring near the bar. The pig noses the wood. It is not scared. It is boring. You get that? The court is long for most of us. The judge asks who owns the beast. A man stands. He twists his cap. He says he tried to wring the pig's nose. The ring did not hold. He is sorry. He offers a coin. He provides a pen by noon. He offers grain for the family. His voice shakes like a leaf. A small man in a dark coat clears his throat. He speaks for the town. He says streets must be safe. Little legs should not fear hooves and tusks. He asks the law to talk loudly this time. He points to the rope. He does not mean to the family. He is careful. The judge rubs his chin and looks at the pig. The pig sneezes. A fine spray hits the clerk's sleeve. The clerk sighs and wipes it off with a dignity towel that lives in his pocket. This is not in the manual. It is in his life. You hear whispers behind you. Some say pigs in other towns wore clothes to face judgment, as if they were little people. A cap, a jacket, a joke that bites. Woodcuts show that. Stories repeat it. Historians still argue whether dressing up was common or whether a few prints deceived many eyes. The pig here wears only mud. It suits him. The judge calls for one more voice. A notary reads a bylaw. All pigs in town must wear nose rings and bells or stay penned. Owners pay if harm comes. That is the quiet core here. The case teaches neighbors as much as it judges a snout. Law wraps risk with thread. It hopes the thread holds. The owner offers a last plea. He says an animal lacks malice. It does not plan. It bumps and breaks without a story in its head. He asks for mercy that lands on him, not on the tether. A fine. A challenging job for the town. Spare the pig. He is poor. The pig is meat and work. These words hang like fog. The room listens. A boy at the rail whispers, "He is cute." The pig snorts. It is cute. Cute does not make safe. The judge's face is long. He picks a path that lands light and heavy at once. Fine the owner, he says, and pen the pig. If the pig runs again, the law will be stern. The family will get bread and coins. The bell at noon will toll once for a warning, not a life. The clerk writes. The rope loosens. The pig wanders to a bucket and finds mash. It eats like it solved the case. Pigs are good at that. You step back as the clerk lifts another scroll. He reads a title that sounds like a joke you would make at midnight and then regret at dawn. The parish versus certain insects. A low laugh bubbles and then hides. The beetle frowns and lifts the seal. The priest steps forward. He wears a surplice. He holds a book and a sprig of green. He looks like a gardener of souls. He seems ready to talk to bugs. The field north of town lies pale and nibbled. Little teeth. Many jaws. Caterpillars. Weevils. Locusts in bad years. The farmers begged the church for help. The church opened its book. The rite is short and odd. First, a summons. Read at the edge of the field, at the crossroads, and in church. 3 times. The priest calls the pests to appear, and then to depart. He names a day. He offers a path. He provides a patch they may take beyond the hedges, by the ditch where no seeds lie. Go there, he says. Leave this bread. Quirky? Yes. But listen to the logic. The rite treats the swarm as part of the moral world. It says even tiny jaws must respect borders. Pulls heaven into hedgerows. It gives shape to fear. If the swarm stays, the priest may excommunicate it with words that sound like the big curse you heard about in the church. A lighter form but sharp. Bell, book, candle. Fields walked by the choir. Cross lifted. Sprinkling at the corners. Rogation processions also do this in the spring. People walk the bounds and pray for crops. The town needs bread. The city uses every tool. Ink, rope, song. A man whispers a wild story from a later age in a town not far from here. A lawyer once spoke for rats who ate grain. He told the court the rats missed their first summons because cats filled the roads. He asked for a safe conduct for his clients. The judge blinked. The crowd almost laughed. The clerk wrote every word. This is the kind of tale you would swear someone made up at an inn. But an honest jurist named Chassigny did argue for rats in the early 1500s. Close to our time, not quite inside it. Still, the tone fits. The mix of straight face and strange cause lives right here. The priest dips the sprig in water and flicks it toward the door to show you the move. He will do it for real at dawn. The farmers nod. They will carry banners. They will walk their earth. They will sing a litany that lists every saint who ever loved a loaf. The bell will talk to the wind. The wind will speak with leaves. The leaves will speak with tiny feet. The little feet will ignore them or they will not. We will know in a week. A locust clicks against the window lattice as if on cue. Small, brown, and very rude. It does not file the proper form. It does not care about seals. Cares about green. You tap the wood. Jumps. The bird team arrives a breath later. A sparrow lands outside, sees the bug, and makes a swift case for natural law. The jury of the hedge says guilty with one peck. Order by feather. Efficient. A bit messy. We accept. Here comes the debate to keep near your pillow. Historians still argue whether animal trials were common practice or rare showpieces that later writers loved too much. They argue about how often pigs really stood at bars, and how usually towns just find owners. They say whether bug banishments were pure theater or proper public prayers that steadied hearts and drew people into caring for their fields. The truth walks a crooked line between fear, hunger, mercy, and show. You rub the carved boar on the lintel as you step out. The snout shines in many hands. People touch what they fear and what they need. Pigs, pests, storms, and saints all live in the same small map here. Law draws lines on that map. Folklore colors them in. The town sleeps better when the lines and colors agree. A man with a horn passes. He wears a short cloak and a green hood. A leather bag hangs at his side. A feather sticks from his cap like a small flag. He smells like pine, dogs, and rain. He nods once. He says, "Forest Court at dawn." His voice is low, like moss. He walks toward the dark fringe of trees at the edge of town. You follow. Stones turn to ruts. Ruts turn to roots. The air cools and the taste of sap. A hush falls that is not empty. It is full of night wings and small feet. An owl asks a question and then answers it by itself. Your lantern cuts thin gold through the green. Your boots sink a little in leaf mold. A twig snaps. A deer lifts its head and then flows away. Just ahead, you see a post with a carved crown. Below it, a board with neat lines. No snare, no bough, no fire in dry grass. Forest law speaks in short words. Can also bite quickly. Fines. Seized hounds. Ears nicked to mark a poacher. Quiet marks for quiet crimes. Your shoulder rubs the bark of a beech. Feels like old skin. You step under a low bough. The horn sounds once, soft as a yawn. Men in green move like shadows. Dogs wag once and then sit. The moon stretches thin silver between high branches. Your breath fogs and fades. You tuck animals, ropes, and fields into the pocket of your mind. You make room for oaks, kings, and rules that grow in shade. The night takes your hand. It leads you into the royal wood. Dawn folds under the oaks like a green tent. Your breath smokes, dew beads on your shoes. A horn sings once, soft and round. Men in green gather near a great stump. A plank serves as a bench. A cloth lies over the plank. It is the color of moss. Two verdeers take seats. They keep the king's wood and deer. A clerk opens a book. Dogs lie down and tuck noses under tails. Their ears twitch. Your lantern is not needed now. The leaves make their own light. A forester taps a staff. He calls the swanamote. Small forest cases come here. Not war, not wolves, just the slow grind of rules under trees. He reads short lines. A snare found by the brook. An oak cut without leave. A cow that strayed into young holly and chewed it to the leaf. A boy with a bough on the feast day. Each charge is a twig. The pile is a cart. Here is a firm fact. Forest law under the Norman kings set its own track beside other laws. It guarded two things, vert and venison. Vert means the green trees, brush, turf. Venison means the king's game, red deer, fallow deer, boar. A separate court judged these things. In 1217, the charter of the forest pulled the brake. It gave people back rights to wood for fuel, grazing, and to fatten pigs on acorns in season. It narrowed the harsh rules and the borders. That charter sat with Magna Carta like a quiet twin. The forester lifts a man's dog onto a block. He strokes its head. He takes a small knife and looks at the paw. He does not cut. He only shows the motion. A quirky rule lives here. Dogs in the royal wood must be lawed or expedited. That means 3 claws on the forefoot are clipped, so the dog cannot chase a deer well. A royal manicure. 0 stars on the pet review. Best to keep Rover outside the bounds. A jay scolds from a branch. Birds keep us company even here. The jay sounds like a tiny forester with bad coffee. A squirrel freezes on a trunk, then bolts. Everyone obeys the horn, almost everyone. The clerk calls a name. A thin man steps forward. He holds his cap. He looks at the ground. He is caught with a hair snare and a fresh skin. He says he is hungry. He says the snare was old. He says many things in a slow string. The verderer listens. He looks past the man to the oak bark. He looks at the dogs. He knows this song. He sets a fine. Not small. Not ruin. The man deflates with a soft sound. He nods. Coins will leave his house like quiet birds. Punishments here cut more than coin. Some places mark a poacher so the trees remember him. A nick in the ear. A notch you cannot hide under a hat. A brand on the thumb also appeared in other courts. These marks talk when mouths are shut. Not every shire did this. Not every judge liked it. But ears carry the quiet law very well. You shift and feel the ground. Roots push up like old knuckles. A boy whispers the words he learned from his granddad. Fence month. It is the close season when deer give birth. No dog runs. No bough bends. No woodcut that can scare a fawn. The forest rests. The law breathes out. Then it breathes in again. A woman comes with a basket. Pigs grunt behind her. She asks for leave for pannage. That right means her pigs can feed on mast, acorns and beech nuts in autumn. She pays a small fee per snout. The adjuster measures with his eyes. He writes her name. Pigs waddle in. Bells tinkle. The whole wood becomes a munch room. Yes, pigs again. They bring joy and drama in equal parts on this tour. A man is called for a sart. He cut and burned a strip at the edge to make a field. He says crops were thin by his door. He says the hedge crept. He says the king has so much wood that he will not miss a row. The verderer drums his fingers. Forest borders change by perambulations. Long walks that mark stones and trees. In 1300, many counties walked them again to shrink swollen bounds. Lines matter here. The fine lands like a dull thud. It will end the assault for now. You watch a forester lift a dog's paw one more time. He smiles at the dog and lets it go. No clip. The dog belongs to a knight with land inside the forest. He keeps the rules. He can bring one hound with leave. Law bends for rank. It always does. The dog wags anyway. Dogs love no one's charters. They love puddles. You see a man with a tangle of rope and hair, an old snare. The forester knows its kind by touch. He ties it into a neat knot and drops it in a chest. He speaks to the man in a low voice. He says, "We will see you again if you do not find better work." The man nods. He might not. Here is your debate to chew on like a beech nut. Historians still argue whether medieval forest law used brutal mutilations in daily life, or if fines and short jail time did most of the work once the 1200s rules took hold. They also argue whether poachers were bold rebels against rich hunts, or mostly hungry neighbors who slipped a snare at dusk. Ballads sing one thing, pipe rolls whisper another. The truth wears mud. You touch a post marked with a crown. Beyond it lies the purlieu, the edge that was once forest and then freed by those long walks. People there have odd, special rights. Purlieu men can keep dogs with claws. They can shoot deer that leap back over their own hedge if they begin inside. The rule is a maze. The maze keeps lawyers busy and cooks louder jokes for inns. A red deer steps into a narrow aisle of light. For a breath, every head turns. The stag lifts its nose. He smells pig, ink, iron, and man. He fades back into green like a thought you almost had. The horn does not call. The dogs do not move. The court keeps its face still. The king's deer is an idea as much as a body. The idea just walked by. The clerk reads the last case. A man carried a bough in the woods on a Sunday. He says he was going to his mother's house. He says he feared wolves. People nod. Wolves still prowl in hills you cannot see from here. The verdeer asks to see the arrows. The heads are narrow, not broad for deer. The fine is small. The note on the page is neat. The horn sounds a short note. You breathe in sap and damp leaf. Your hands smell like bark now. The forester with the feather in his cap, the one who met you at the town gate, ties his bag and nods to you. Walk carefully, he says. The hill is busy. You tilt your head. He jerks his chin toward the rise beyond the last oak. A shape sits there like a black fork against the sky. You know that shape. A gallows. 2 uprights. 1 crosspiece. The town posts it high so travelers see the law before they see the market. It is still dawn, but people are already walking that way. Some carry baskets. Some carry hearts like stones. The horn behind you fades. The bell ahead finds its voice. As you step out of the shade, you look back once. You file a few green words in your pocket. Vert venison, panage, sart, swanamote. They feel odd and cool. You add one more. Expeditation. You smile at the dog spa joke no one asked for. It isn't perfect. You keep it anyway. A woodpecker knocks 3 times on a dead trunk. Tap, tap, tap. That is our drum roll. The road rises and the air opens. A breeze pulls smoke flat across the fields. A cart creaks. A child hums. A woman ties a scarf tighter. Your lantern is a pale ghost now in the sun. You pinch it out and hang it at your side. On the hill, a man in a dark coat checks a rope. Priest holds a book. A singer tests a slow note. A boy sells hot pies from a tray. Yes, pies at the gallows. The town brings life even to the edge of a last step. You do not have to like it. You have to look and listen. You climb. The crowd makes space without being asked. Your feet stop at the back rail. Your hands find the wood. Your eyes see the beam. Your ears find one long breath held by many chests at once. You hold the rail. The hill smells like damp grass, with smoke, and hot pies. Yes, pies again. This town is big on snacks. A rope turns once in the light breeze. Creaks. A raven lands on the beam and watches like a critic in a black cloak. 2 men check knots. The priest whispers and warms his hands over a small brazier. A bell in the town gives 3 slow notes. The crowd hushes and leans. The sheriff arrives with a scroll. The seal hangs like a red berry. He reads the sentence. His voice is steady. He misreads one word, fixes it, and coughs. We forgive him. Words are heavy up here. The clerk nods and writes. He writes every hill like a field. The cart waits under the beam. The wheels are new. The rope looks new, too. A man stands in the cart with his hands bound. A rope waits at his neck. He stares at the horizon. He breathes in through his nose and out through his mouth. He does it like a sailor. He does it like a monk. He does it like you did with the ordeal chalk. Here is a firm fact. Hanging is the most common end on a hill like this in much of medieval Europe. Nobles sometimes face the axe or the sword. Heretics, when the church abandons them, meet fire by secular hands. Traitors face the worst stack of penalties, but we fold the page at that line tonight. In Paris, a great stone gallows called Montfaucon stood outside the walls from the 1300s. It was huge. It was a sign more than a tool. Towns set their law on hills so roads could be seen. A drummer taps a slow beat. Tap, tap, tap. Piper plays a thin tune. The tone is not a party. It is a march. A priest speaks with the man in the cart. Soft words. Short prayer. The man nods. He kisses the cross. He makes a sign. He asks the crowd to pray for him. He says, "Good people, take warning." It sounds like a street sermon. It sounds like a post with no comments. It has influencer energy most strangely. A few heads dip. A few eyes roll. People are people. A boy runs past with a tray. "Hot pies," he chants. Steam whirls up. A woman buys two and hands one to a friend who does not look away from the cart. Eating and endings share space. That is how towns work. Life does not pause for the law. The hangman steps near the cart. He does not wear a mask. He wears a plain coat and strong boots. He looks like a man on laundry day. He knows knots like a sailor. He ties fast and neatly. He stands to one side so the priest can speak. The man slips him a coin, quick and quiet. Quirky but real. In many places, the hangman kept the clothes of the condemned as his fee. A tip for a quick hand was standard, too. Grim, yes, also practical. Gear and skill matter when the drop is short. The sheriff lifts his hand. He looks down the road. Everyone looks at him. That is the ritual, too. Pardon could arrive at the last breath. A writer might bring a letter with green wax. In France, letters of remission wore such seals. In England, a royal writ could ride fast. The crowd strains to see dust. The raven blinks and waits to judge the plot. The road stays empty. The priest starts a psalm. Voices rise. De profundis, the deep one. The tune is slow and round. A woman near you hums in harmony. The piper plays one soft note and lowers his pipe. He knows when music should not lead. The drummer stops. The hill hears only feet on grass and the low chant. The sheriff nods. The cart moves. The rope takes weight. The cart rolls on. The crowd lets out one long breath. No one cheers. A baby cries and then falls silent. The raven ruffles and settles. Your hands grip the rail, then ease. You stare at the grass, not the beam. That is fine. You are not here to stare hard. You are here to see the shape. A clerk reads a mercy note from the town. It says the widow of a man who stole bread last winter will get a small gift from the guild. It states that the children will have shoes in the cold months. It says the miller promised fair weight at the door. The note is short. It is also a bridge. The law tries to leave one small plank for the living. It matters. It does not fix everything. It is still a plank. Vendors move again. Quiet voices hum. A singer near the back tests a tune for later. In the age of print to come, broadside sheets will sell last speeches by the cart. Tonight it is only memory and mouth. A few men repeat the last words to those who stood too far to hear. Stories spread on foot. They always do. A girl points up. "Bird," she says. The raven shows off and hops along the beam. Birds keep us company in every room. This one likes hill work. It looks very official. It judges us all and then judges a crumb instead. You respect that. An older man grumbles near your elbow. He says the crowd used to be wilder. He says people brought music and mugs. He says the law liked that because fear sells better when the tent is packed. A woman shushes him. She says this is prayer time. Here is your debate for the pillow. Historians still argue whether crowds on days like this were rowdy fairs or sober schools, and how that changed by place and year. They also say about how much the last words were coached or free, and how many people heard them well. The wind keeps half the record. A bell rings down in the town. Shops open. Carts creak. The field larks rise and write silver scribbles in the air. The priest closes his book and speaks to the hangman. The hangman nods. He looks tired. He will visit the church later. He will take a bowl at the inn at noon. People will sit a seat away. They will pretend it is about the draft. It will be about him. You look at the rope and think of the question room. The rope there pulled for words. This rope pulls for silence. Both ropes serve a page. Both ropes wear tallow. Small links connect big things in a town. A steward steps up with a small horn. He reads a list of lesser punishments to come. Whipping at the cart's tail for thieves who stole small. Banishment for a brawler who would not stop. A brand on the thumb for the man who tried the neck verse trick twice. The crowd nods. The menu is long. The kitchen is always open. You think of mercy again. A rider could have come. Cousin could have found a witness. A king could have sighed and signed. The sheriff could have looked the other way for one more hour. All those maybes live on this hill. They make your breath tight and light at the same time. The law here is firm. Can also bend on a hinge made of wax and will. You step back from the rail. Your legs shake once and then stop. The pie boy offers a last pie. You shake your head. He shrugs and eats it himself. He makes a face when it is too hot and does not learn. He will do that again next week. Some lessons refuse to stick. You follow the slow flow down the hill. A woman carries a candle. She will set it in church for a soul. A man holds a small sack. He will set bread by a door. A girl picks a hatpin out of the grass and keeps it like treasure. Little acts move around the big act. They patch. They do not erase. They help. Below, you pass a stone with a carved cross. It marks a spot where a pardon arrived once at the last breath. The story says the sheriff cut the rope on the second swing. The man lived and the king let him walk. True? Maybe. Maybe not. The stone believes it. That matters too. You stop by a hedge and breathe. The day feels larger now. The air smells like dew again. Your ears ring with bell notes and drum taps. Your hands smell like wood. Your eyes feel dry. You blink and they find the road. A clerk in a dark coat hurries past. He carries a bag of seals. He mutters about petitions. He mutters about pardons. He mutters about new rules for men with soft hands and big books. Change walks on small feet. It climbs hills the same way we do. Slow, careful, step by step. You turn toward the lower square. The stalls open. The apples shine. The hourglass by the pillory glints. The beetle laughs at a joke and then looks shy about it. The church door stands open for morning light. Your feet know the way now. Your heart finds a softer pace. We will end at dawn, with talk of pardons, reforms, and kinder laws that grew like herbs and cracks. Not all at once, not everywhere, but enough to change the tune of the street. For now, you slide your hand along the hedge and let the hum of the town pull you toward that quieter edge. Your breath slows. The raven lifts and flies toward the river, a dark comma in a pale sentence. You follow the curve of the road and let the hill become a small line behind you. You drift into the lower square at first light. Stalls open like sleepy eyes. A broom whispers over stone, steam curls from a pie cart. Yes, pies are back. This town believes in carbs and consequences. Your chest finally finds a slow, steady beat. You like the rhythm. You earned it. A clerk in a dark coat passes. His bag of seals bumps his hip. He nods. He says the word pardon, as if it were a small loaf. You ask what he means. He says kings give mercy for many reasons. A feast day, a wedding, a war, a good petition, a bad year. Letters ride out with wax like green leaves. In France, they call them letters of remission. They tell the story. They ask for grace. The seal says yes. A life turns. He taps his bag. Thunks like a fruit with good flesh. Here is a firm fact. In England, kings sent general pardons at significant moments. At a coronation or after a revolt, many men could claim a royal peace. In France in the 1300s and 1400s, those remission letters became a busy road for mercy. The paper told the deed in full, weighed intent, and set a fine or a duty. Mercy traveled by horse and clerk. You can hear the hooves if you listen. You stop by the market cross. You look at the hourglass on the pillory. Sand slides the same as last night, but the rules under it change over time. In 1215, a council cut ordeals. Juries grew. In 1217, the charter of the forest curbed harsh wood law. In 1285, the Statute of Winchester told towns to keep watch and raise hue and cry. That meant more guards, more lamps, and fewer nights where fear ran the lanes. In 1361, a law set justices of the peace to bind hot tempers and hear minor crimes. A bond to keep the peace kept people from fighting. No rope, no rack, just a promise with a coin behind it. You nod. Promise can be substantial. The pie man waves a crust. You wave back and save your coins. Your purse has had a long night. You pass the bench where the beadle sat on market days. A new sign hangs under it. It lists fines for lies, cuts, and broken locks. The lines are neat. The sums look fair, at least on the wood. The Magna Carta stated that amercements must fit the fault and not ruin a man's tools. That rule still hums. Keeps the hammer from being the only tool in the box. A woman in a white shift stands by the church door, barefoot. A rope hangs loose around her neck like a soft ring. She holds a candle. She whispers sorry to neighbors as they pass. That is a quirky old custom. A mercy plea made with a halter to show full shame. Towns did not force that every time. Some did. Some did not. The body speaks before the mouth. The rope without a knot says, "Please." The candle says, "I will mend." You walk on and watch a scribe in the sun. He holds a pardon letter to the light. He checks the seal. He checks the names. He smiles. Paperwork has paperwork. He loves that. He will file it in a chest with a sleepy clunk. He hums a psalm and a pie song at once. It works. You think of the rack and the rope in the hall. Then you think of rules that hem them in. Roman canon courts wrote no life, no limb in their books when they asked hard questions. Later, the rules became even stricter. In England, torture never sat in the trial book as a habit. Confession mattered, but juries grew teeth and eyes. Intent and heat of the moment began to count. A fight in a lane is not the same as a plot in a barn. A judge could say that out loud. A jury could nod. That is not soft. That is smart. Remember the goose at the stocks? The one who tried to start a pedicure service? His cousins waddle by the river. They hiss at a dog and then mind their own geese nest. You laugh. The birds have followed you all night. Owl on the beam, raven on the gallows, gull at the stool, sparrow at the court. They are the tiny jury with wings. They file no forms. They still show up. A bell rings 2 bright notes. A herald reads a town rule about wages and roads. In 1351, a law was passed after the Great Plague to fix salaries and force people to work. Stocks held those who broke that rule. You saw those stocks. You felt the smooth holes. They worked long hours after bad years. That mix of fear and order tastes like ash. You file the flavor away and drink some air to clear it. You turn down a lane as a man in blue pulls a boy aside. The man is a justice. He writes a bond for good behavior. The boy signs with a mark. He will keep away from a tavern door at sundown. He will pay if he slips. The man pats his shoulder. The boy nods. No chair. No splash. Just a simple fence built with words. You like fences that do not bruise. A church officer passes with a small bag. It is for prisoners' alms. Coins ring. The town feeds the locked. It also feeds the hungry. Confraternities bake loaves and carry them to doors. They give candles for dark rooms. They provide shoes in cold months. That is law too, in a way. It is the law of hands. It holds a place while heavy rules move slowly. You pause by a door with a small heart carved on the lintel. A woman once earned a pardon and had to fund a bridge plank as part of her duty. Her friends carved the heart when the plank went in. A thank you in wood. A map for a child to find a story. That is a local thing. It will not be in big books. It will live because people touch it when they pass. Your pillow debate arrives right on time. Historians still debate whether the flood of late medieval pardons ended blood feuds, or if it allowed wealthy men to buy clean pages while poor men paid with their lives. They still argue whether juries became actual judges of fact by the 1400s, or stayed half-witnesses for longer than we think. They still say whether stocks and pillories were dying out or just moving to smaller corners. The chart is not one line. It is a braid. You can hum to that. A jay scolds from a roof. You look up and salute. Bird Union continues its shift. Please give them hazard pay for sermon duty. The jay does not laugh. It has standards. You stop at the edge of the square. The gallows hill is a gray notch now. The forest is a dark stripe. The river is a ribbon. The market is a quilt. The church is a lantern. The goal is a small square of shadow. Every place you walk fits in your gaze. Each tool fits in your palm like a story. Some cut, some mend. All tried to keep the town from breaking. You can respect that and still wish for better. A notary waves a new book. He says a judge wants plainer words in writs. He says people should understand their own cases. Good plan. Clear words make fair rules easier to love. You give him a thumbs up. He writes your thumb into a margin as local support. You are an influencer now. Sorry, you passed the pillory one last time. The hourglass is empty. Someone forgot to flip it. You nod and leave it. Let the town have a quiet hour. Everyone needs one, even planks. The sun stands a hand higher. Warmth touches your cheeks. You feel a nap sneak up from your toes. Your eyes blink slowly. Your heart taps a soft drum in your ribs. You fold the night into a small packet. Stocks, pillory, ordeal chalk, dual sand, coin scales, frith stool, gold straw, jury bench, question rope, inquisitor's seal, ducking stool, pig rope, bug prayer, oak court, gallows beam, pardon wax. You tuck the packet under your tongue like a story sweet. You let it melt. Pigeon whirs up and lands by your foot. Coos. Team Sand would say this is the end of the line for tonight. You agree. You walk home through a lane that smells like bread and damp stone. Your steps are slow. Your shoulders are light. Your heartbeat is a quiet metronome. Keeps perfect time as the town exhales. Let the square empty and the torches sink to warm embers, and let the bell speak only once and softly. As the light turns thin and the roofs take on that gray-blue hush that means morning has slipped in without asking permission. And as you breathe, just a little slower, picture each place we stopped tonight folding itself away, like careful hands closing a chest. The stocks tilt their faces down. The pillory rests its jaw and grows quiet. Chalk lines blur under a pale mist. The sand in the ring lies smooth. The scales in the hall are covered with a cloth. The frith stool keeps its warm polish for the next tired soul who needs it. The straw settles. The jury bench is cool. The rope untwists once, then sleeps. The seal's wax grows firm. The stool by the river dries in a faint breeze. The pig finds shade and an honest bucket. The field lifts a new green that was not there last week. The trees in the royal would breathe in dew and breathe out peace, and the hill, even the hill, softens to a line on the edge of the day. Let your shoulders drop as you think of the small kindness that threaded through the noise, the cup of water, the shared crust, the hand on a sleeve, the soft nod in a doorway, and if your mind tries to replay the louder scenes, let it glide gently past the signs and the chords and the crowds, and rest instead on the lantern glow on wet stones. The way birds kept showing up like tiny ushers for the night, the hourglass turning with its steady hush, the river tapping the boards and saying, "It's all right, this is how a town keeps time." And in your room, turn your face to the easy sound around you, maybe that fan with its kind slight hum, perhaps the quiet tick in the wall, and feel your breathing match it, slow and loose, and as the last pictures fade, keep only the warmth of the sun in the square and the simple promise inside your chest, that slow, steady beat you can trust to carry you through the dark and into the light again, and again and again.